listening to the Nii Lamptey Show. My name is Joey. This week I am joined by Paul.
All right, mate.
And by Neil.
Hello again.
And extra special guest, Chris Kirkland. How's it going, Chris?
Good evening, you okay?
Yeah, very well indeed. How's lockdown treating you? This is what we've been asking everybody who's asked. First question for these dark times. How are you coping with lockdown?
Yeah, you're probably going to get the same answers you've had off everyone else. I would have thought. It's listen, it is what it is. It's not nice. The first couple of weeks were harder, I think, because you sort of, you're into the unknown. Whereas now you're sort of used to what's happening. You know what the situation is. You know what you can and can't do. You know what your day's going to be like pretty much every day. So it's about accepting that and trying to make the most of it. And it's easy just to sit there and do nothing and let the minutes drag on and stuff like that. But we're trying to keep as active as we can in the house. Doing a lot of exercise, doing a lot of. Our daughter's still carrying on her homework. She's got from school, so Monday to Friday she keeps in that school routine, gets up, does lessons, exercise, and we just try and break the day up and do as much as we can during the day.
How's the dog coping?
The dog is wondering what's going on, to be honest. He's delighted that I'm here all the time now. So I used to be out quite a lot doing bits and bobs, but yeah, he's a little bit. I'm not sure why all of you are every day now, because obviously he's used to Lucy being at school, and yeah, so I think he's a bit miffed, but he's getting walked a lot more. Well, a lot more than he already did anyway. He was already walked to the maximum, but he's been getting a lot more offers now. So he's loving it. He's okay.
Well, that's good to hear that somebody's getting the good end of the stick anyway. Right, this week we've got Paul who's going to be leading on the questions. So I'm going to hand over to you, Paul. Where do you want to start, mate?
Well, we might as well start at the start. Between the powerhouse of Coventry City and smaller club Leicester City, did you support either of those, or were you just a football fan? Or how did you first fall in love with the game?
No, Liverpool fan. From my first game, my dad took me up when I was 7 years old to Anfield. We used to stand in the Kop, which will come on to obviously when I left Coventry in a bit, but always been a Liverpool fan. Just seen the red kit. Got my first candy kit. I think I put a picture on Twitter quite a while ago. Somebody said, "Oh, you've never been a Liverpool fan." So my dad sent me a load of pictures up of when I was a kid, and I had one when I was about 7 in this candy top. So I put that on Twitter, and it shut a few people up, because obviously when I signed for Liverpool, it was I would say it's a dream come true, like a lot of people do when they sign for football teams, and a lot of people it is true at the time, but. Yeah, always been a Liverpool fan. My dad was Leicester. All my family were Leicester fans. We used to go down to Filbert Street Monday night football and go and watch them play down there. But I was always Liverpool.
Obviously, you mentioned your dad, and as we all know from the bet he subsequently won later on, he was a big influence on your career. Now, you say you've got a daughter yourself, and I've got 2 girls, and you yourself, so teaching them or trying to do things, it can be quite difficult to teach your own children, probably more difficult than teaching other people's children. Were you a good pupil for your dad, or were you, obviously you loved football anyway, so was it just ideal childhood for you?
Yeah, my dad's dad, this is going back to, around the wartime, Aston Villa, when they were the team then, talking, in the 50s, 60s, when Aston Villa were huge. They come knocking on my dad's door, wanting to sign, but obviously football was different in them days, and he never did it. But my dad used to tell me some stories about his dad, that he was well known around the area, unbelievable footballer. My dad was not blessed with his talents, but he was a decent player in his own right. And yeah, I just remember when he used to get home, he used to work down in Desford Tubes as a crane driver, and he used to work all hours, 12-hour, 14-hour shifts, and he always used to come home, and as soon as I knew the time, I'd be waiting on the windowsill. He'd come in, and I'd say, "Come on, Dad, let's get down the park." And he never said no. No matter how tired he was, no matter if he'd just worked nights or whatever, he'd always take me down, but never push me. He'd never, if I was sitting there, say, "Come on, get up, you got to go and train." He'd never do that. But whenever I wanted to, which was all the time anyway, he always took me down. But that was as an outfielder. It wasn't until I was 13 until the goalkeeping sort of took hold.
Is that because you suddenly had a growth spurt, or just gravitated towards it?
I was never any good on pitch anyway, and I was on the bench as an outfielder for my team Barwell, and the goalkeeper got injured, and because I was the only one on the bench, the manager said, "Look, you've got to go in goal. We've got nobody else." So I went in goal, and made a couple of saves and thought, I quite like this, diving around, and that's where it stuck then. You know, the keeper was out for a good few weeks, and I stayed in goal, and that's where it stuck. And yeah, so I was quite a late developer.
And then obviously, sorry, some of this is taken from Wikipedia, but from what I understand from Wikipedia, you had a trial at Blackburn before you ended up at obviously the established Premier League powerhouse that was Coventry City.
Yes, I did, and it was horrendous. The trial was the worst it could have ever gone. I went up there for a week. George Hayes, who was the local scout in the Leicester area, and I don't know if you've heard of him before, but he spotted a lot of players. And he said, look, go up to Blackburn. And I went up there, and it was I was just terrible. Every shot in, you know, went in, and I thought, there's no way I'm going to get another chance. There's no way I'll get another trial anywhere. And yeah, but that trial could not have gone any worse.
How old were you at that point, mate?
I was 14, I think I was at that point. 14.
Because you had a big growth spurt, didn't you? Like, you became huge. But did you know you were going to get that big?
No, well, my dad's 6'2", 6'3". My mum's about 6 foot. My sisters, my sisters are quite tall. But it wasn't until I was at Cov in the first year of the YTS that I shot up about 18 inches in no time. Yeah.
Oh, that's the dream, isn't it?
It helped.
Because that would double your height, wouldn't it, Neil?
I'm 5'8". That's why they're taking the piss.
Well, my wife's 5'6", so.
Oh,
that's people, eh?
So, I mean, you talk about the YTS at Coventry, and obviously, in the last couple of years, we've been quite reliant on that. But obviously, there was a spell just after you left when we were reliant on that youth team. But that youth team you joined had some, obviously, McSheffrey went on to play in the Premier League, Davenport went on to play in the Premier League. About 6 or 7 other lads from that group played first team football for Cov.
Yeah.
When you walked in, did you was there an atmosphere of, you know, because obviously, again, that team got to the Youth Cup final in 1999. Did they look good? I mean, did you feel at home straight away with other talented youngsters?
We just clicked, all of us, straight away. And I've always said it from throughout my career. If you've got a good dressing room, your dressing room wins and lose your games. And we had a brilliant dressing room in that youth team. You know, there wasn't anyone above the station. There wasn't anyone that didn't get on with anyone. Nobody was left out. We all got on, you know, first and second years. Yeah, there was a bit of friendly rivalry and stuff like that. You know, the second years used to make the first years do all the jobs, but it was all in good spirit, and there was never any issue. You had the odd dust up as you do. You got 20 odd lads staying in the same place, but it was, as soon as it happened, it was forgotten about. We had you know, George Mackey and Harry, that was the first youth team when we were first there. He was brilliant with us all. Then obviously George Mackey, Richard Money was there. So we had a brilliant setup. And like you said, you know, we got to the Youth Cup final and we did well. And you don't do that unless you've got a great set of lads. And, you know, we certainly did have. There's some great characters and we had some brilliant laughs in the lodge. It was, I mean, like Roy and Marie, who looked after us in the lodge, I don't know how they did it. You know, we got up to all sorts, and never anything malicious or anything like that. We were just constantly playing. You know, because that night at the lodge, we had the run of the lodge basically, so we could, you know, go down to the dressing rooms, the shower rooms, upstairs where the offices were. So we had the run of the lodge, and some of the pranks that got played were wow. It was good times, really good times.
Because Richard Money went on to, I mean, he was quite influential a bit later on in the first team, wasn't he? But yeah. Was he the man who was really the sort of mastermind behind that youth team, or was it just a combination?
Yeah, there was a combination. Obviously, it started off with Harry with my first year, Harry Roberts, and then George Mackey had a big say as well. You know, George Mackey was excellent, very hard, very to the point. You know, he'd let you know if he wasn't happy, but he got the best out of the lads. And obviously Richard was, you know, you look back at the experience he's had over the years, he just clicked to what got on with all the lads. A lot of lads liked him. Some didn't, as you're going to get. You know, the same with George, but we just had a brilliant unit. All of us were just, you know, we as I said, we got on so well. And what happened off the pitch helped us on the pitch. As I said, you know, all of us staying in the lodge with Roy and Marie. We all shared rooms, obviously, and everything that went on there helped us when we got onto the pitch because we were so close as a group.
Who was the star of that team? Was it Sheffers or?
He likes to think it was. He said it. Yeah, he probably was, to be honest. I mean, he had a couple of big operations on his hips as well. So but yeah, it probably was Sheffers, and yeah, as I said, he wasn't shy in letting people know it either.
And then sort of not long after you sort of got a contract, I think sort of at the age of 17, you started finding yourself on the bench during what's obviously now known as the Entertainers season, where we had Robbie Keane, Gary McAllister was probably his finest season for us, Mustafa Hadji. That team finished around about 13th, 14th in the Prem, but obviously our home form was amazing and we won a lot of big games that season. It must have been quite a great place to be, sort of having that reputation as being a quality football side, but also it was quite a buoyant period.
Oh, it was, yeah. As you said, you just mentioned the players there. They had some team. And again, in the dressing room, we noticed that we talked about our dressing room with the youth team, the first team dressing room. You could tell it was very buoyant, and the dressing room, as I said before, it wins and loses your games. And that the amount of players you talk about, Hadji and Chippo, they were just part of all that as well. They didn't keep themselves to themselves. They were an amazing part of the team. And as I said, Dion kept it all together. Gary Mack, there was some brilliant pros there. Roland Nielsen. Everyone that was there. Sorry?
How did you get introduced? So obviously, sort of different clubs have different processes of how they promote youngsters into the first team, with them not being allowed in the first team's dressing room. Or how did Gordon Strachan sort of bring you through into the first team?
Well, I started training with them. Obviously, we were in the same building, so the first team dressing room was just a few doors down from the youth team. So obviously, we used to get all the balls ready, everything ready, all the kit out for the first team, seeing them training, thinking we want a bit of that. And then I started to, because when I first went to Cov at 16, they signed another lad called Steve Watson. I don't know if you remember. He was a Geordie lad, a Newcastle lad, and he was meant to be the next big goalkeeper, the next big thing. He was bought to Coventry. I think they paid a few quid for him. He was going to be the next big goalkeeper Coventry had. And but I quickly overtook him because, working with Oggy at an early age at 15, working with him down at the lodge on a Wednesday when he was first team keeper, and then obviously training with him and seeing the way he trained, seeing the way he was respected, seeing the way he talked to people, and the biggest thing was the way he trained, how hard he trained. I thought, I'm not here to be second choice. I want to be first choice, and I quickly overtook him. And I think he got noticed with my attitude around the place. I used to clean all the cars, and I just wanted to be part of the whole experience. I just couldn't wait to wake up in the morning, get the jobs, and get down the stairs and be in and around it. And then obviously the biggest thing though is to try and get with the first team and train with the first team, train with Oggy, Jim, Magnus, and that happened pretty quickly. And but I was still in my youth team training in the dressing room. So even if you train with the first team, even if you started playing with the first team, and you were still a young lad, you wouldn't get in there. And then the next stage, there was a first team dressing room, and then there was like another dressing room next to that where like
VIP area.
Yeah, Barry Quinn and like Gav Strachan, when they first started getting in that was like a little dressing room there. And then if you'd made so many appearances, whatever, then you'd get taken into the first team dressing room. So yeah, it was. But to be honest, you wanted to keep out of it because you're that scared when you first start, because you're thinking, oh, look at these players, even though they were brilliant with you. It was daunting, as you say, when you're a young lad, and out on the pitch is one thing because that's your bread and butter. You're there to play football and to try and do as well as you can. But the dressing room can be a big daunting place until you get used to it.
Is that a common thing across clubs? Because we had Tom Bayliss on a while back, and he said that the exact same thing happened to him. He was starring in the first team, but he still didn't get into the dressing room. Is that something that just happens across the board at football clubs?
I think it should do. I think you've got to earn the right to be. You're talking about going to dressing rooms with pros that have played for the international, Champions League, whatever. I think you've got to earn the right to be. First, you've got to earn the right to train with them. To be in and around them, and then to obviously try and get into max squads if you can, or the reserves, and then into max squads. So you've got to earn the right to get into them dressing rooms. But as soon as you're in them, I mean, they make you feel as though you should have been in there since day one.
Yeah.
Yeah. They give you a little bit of stick and just as friendly stuff, but we had some amazing pros at Coventry, no more so than Dion. He ran the place, and everyone respected Dion, and he gave the respect back out as well.
Were you surprised he didn't go on to become a manager or a coach? Are you surprised? I mean, obviously he's got that's the way that they're the stairs to the bedroom abilities. But I always thought. I mean, for me, I sort of Dion was a massive hero of mine back in the. Well, I mean, he still is. I know he left for Villa, but even we can accept that now because the guy was amazing for us, both as a centre half and as a centre forward. And just part of me would always love to him to come back as manager and just been the guy that you sort of knew he would be. Were you surprised he drifted out of the game?
A little bit. I agree with you because he had that respect in the dressing room. I mean, I used to clean his car when I was in the youth team, and I don't know if you remember. You remember the old Mercedes that were about 50 foot long. he had one. I
think if he asked, I'd clean his car now.
I cleaned his car, but he was just he had that respect. He just even now he does a lot obviously in the media, but if he's one of the nicest blokes I've ever met in football, and he always had time for the youth team, always had time for younger players. If you had any problems, you could go and see him. So yeah, I'm a little bit surprised, but then again, players become managers that you never thought would be. It works both ways, sort of thing. So, there's still time for him, whether he gets involved in it or not. But yeah, I mean, the one thing for sure, if he did ever become a manager, he'd have that respect straight away off everyone that he worked with.
Now, my earliest memory of yourself is a bit of an odd one because it's about 6 months before you made your debut. But I'm sure you can probably remember in early 1999, a couple of years ago, playing Middlesbrough at Highfield Road. And Magnus Hedman couldn't move.
Yeah.
And we knew you were on the bench, and we knew because I think you'd only just started to be on the bench. I think it was only your third or fourth appearance on the bench. But obviously, being a fan of any club, you start. One of your big passions is you want as many youth players as you can in the team because everyone loves that player who comes through the youth system. And we knew you were highly rated, and then we couldn't understand not bringing you on when we clearly had a goalkeeper who couldn't move. What was going through your mind? Because I know what was going through my mind, and it was a lot of swear words.
Yeah. Obviously, I was nervous, but I wanted to get on the pitch. But Gordon had a word of his after and Jim, and they were protecting me. I think we were losing at the time, weren't we? We were losing at the time. Was it 2-0 or?
It was 1. Because I thought we'd lost 2-0. We were 1-0 down. McAllister equalised. And then Dean Gunn scored with a 40-yard P-roller that I'm pretty certain my mum would have saved.
Yeah, I mean, afterwards, I think it was, I always trusted Gordon, and I was never going to question him or Jim, and they just thought that it just wasn't, for whatever reason, they just wanted to protect me a little bit more. Like you said, there'd been talk and stuff like that, and obviously you hear that as well as a kid because you want people to be talking about you, but they just didn't think it was the right time for me to go on under them circumstances. Rightly or wrongly, I never ever questioned it. He just said, listen, just trust me, when you're ready you'll be in, and when I think you're ready, you'll be in, and things turned out pretty well in the end. So I've got nothing but praise to say about Gordon and Jim Blythe, obviously, who's my goalie coach, and Big Oggy as well.
That's interesting because I've questioned that decision virtually once a day for the last 21 years. But fair play to you were closer to the situation. Oh, God, not hold a grudge, but that was a disgraceful decision. Anyway, and then the following season, you did make your debut against Tranmere in the League Cup. But I suppose the 89-99 season is probably more for you about that Youth Cup. And obviously, you got to the final only to be defeated by a young lad called Joe Cole. I don't know if you can remember what happened to him. I heard he sort of went on to play for England.
Michael Carrick as well.
Yeah, I mean that was a very good West Ham team. But obviously that must have. It's one thing because having looked over it, there's even now trying to think 20, 25 years on, there weren't many 17, 18, 19-year-old goalkeepers in the Premier League, and there can't have been many since. So you must have been. You've always sounded very down to earth, but there must have been part of you which is sort of quite. I'm making it. This is going exactly how I'd want it to.
No, never.
No,
that's one thing. No, I've done many interviews, and I never ever thought I'd made it until I retired, until I finished my last game. And if you do, then I think you set yourself up to fail. Because football can change so quickly. We all know that you can be the hero 1 minute and you can be zero next. And so I never took anything. I was just obsessed with training when I was younger, particularly when I was younger. until I got up to about 30. And then obviously your body, you have to start tapering it down a little bit. But I was just obsessed with training. Even when I moved to Liverpool, didn't ask about my contract, didn't ask about anything like that. Didn't want to know how much money or anything. I just wasn't bothered at all. I just wanted to train. I'd seen the way, the biggest thing during my career, and the one I'll always say helped me to get where I got to and to lucky enough to have a pretty decent career, was Oggy. Because without seeing the way he trained, the way he was from an early age, I was lucky enough to work with him from 15. Without having that, things could have been very different. But I seen the way he was, and I thought, that's the only way to train. That's the only way to be as a professional footballer. And he never rested on his laurels right up until he was 41. I was on the bench for his last game against Sheffield Wednesday, and he was gutted he let a goal in his it was his last game, and he was devastated that they scored late on for him to not get the clean sheet. But just the way he trained, as I said, his attitude, he was the first out on the training pitch, he was the last in every single day, he was in the gym after. He was just a workaholic, and he never ever took anything. He knew he had to work at his game. He was a big unit, Oggy was, and he knew he had to work on every aspect. So I owe him, and obviously Jim as well, my goalie coach at the time at Coventry. But having that work with Oggy, and we still speak a lot now. So without him, I wouldn't have had the career I had.
So after, obviously you got to the League Cup, the Youth Cup final with, by the sounds of it, quite a lot of friends who I'm assuming from what you're saying are still close friends to this day. So you've obviously, as I said, you're sort of getting better known within the Coventry fans, and then the following season, the 2000-2001 season, you supplant Magnus Hedman, who's Sweden's number one, as Coventry's number one. So he sort of saying he's only really started going in goal at the age of 13. Within 7 years, you've made it to the pinnacle of being first choice at Cov and playing in the Premier League. It was
a quick right, yeah. As like I said, it was I was a late starter in terms of goalkeeping, and when I got to Coventry, things progressed really quick. As I said, I shot up a lot. I was in and around the first team pretty quick. Within, I think it was about 8 months, a year, I was training with them pretty much regularly, and then making my debut at 18 against Tranmere, and then ousting Magnus, which was not easy at all. But that's the faith that Gordon had is, and Jim, obviously my coach Jim Blythe as well. They had tremendous faith in me, and I did as well in my ability. When I was younger, I was fearless, and I just wanted to train. I wanted to be the best. I wanted to save every shot in training, because that's why. Sorry.
I didn't realise this was quite so early on into your Coventry career, but it was only your second Premier League game when you got sent off against Chelsea.
Yeah, it got overturned.
Important to note that, yeah.
Got it. But I was devastated, absolutely devastated. Yeah, it was 0-0 at the time. I'd made a few saves early on. I think it was about 21st minute or something like that.
22nd, come 22nd,
on. Yeah. So I was devastated, really was. I was in the change room, gutted. My first game at Stamford Bridge, started the game well, made a few saves, and then got sent off. Like I said, that's what football is. It can bring you crashing back down. Luckily, it got overturned, and I was allowed to play against, I think it was Man U the week after, although I let a soft David Beckham free kick in that I should have saved. But yeah,
I remember that.
I should have saved that definitely. It was. Go on, mate.
What was that season like then? Because obviously, when you first were on the bench in the entertainment season, we were amazing at home. We were, as I said, a very buoyant football club to be around. And then the 2000-2001, obviously things started to fall apart, and you've just broken into the first team. So from a personal point of view, it must have been an incredibly exciting adventure. But also, you must have been able to. Well, I mean, it was evident as we weren't winning games and we were struggling at the bottom that things weren't going particularly well. What you talked earlier about a strong dressing room. What was the dressing room like that season?
Like you said, it's tough. Every game there's pressure on it. As a goalkeeper as well. But that's where Gordon and Jim were brilliant, and Dion as well. They were just saying, listen, just concentrate on your job. Don't worry about the rest of the team. You can only do your job, and if you do that, it will give us a hell of a chance. Because they were saying what a good goalkeeper I was. They believed in me, Gordon was going to play me even though he was in trouble, which spoke volumes to me, knowing he trusted me and obviously Jim as well. But they just kept saying that to me. Don't worry about anything. Don't think about anything else in the team. Just concentrate and do what you do best and do what you do, and that'll give us a hell of a chance. But unfortunately, it wasn't enough, and we got relegated, which was, to this day still hurts. Really does hurt.
Yeah, because it's 20 years ago and we still haven't fully recovered as a football club, to be fair. But it's one of those things, we were talking about this earlier, about sort of different players you come through and sort of make different impressions on you. And I always remember a save that Magnus Hedman made in Norwich, which was unbelievable. And I was racking my brain, and this I don't mean this in any disrespect, I don't remember you ever pulling off a save that was amazing. What I remember is that you didn't seem to, apart from the Beckham free kick you mentioned earlier, you didn't seem to, you were just, you walked into the first team as an unflappable, solid goalkeeper. You sort of came ready formed, and you were just 8 out of 10 at everything straight away. And it was just, you sort of, what you were saying about earlier about being in the dressing room, you could sort of be as a fan, you were like, this guy's just meant to be there. This is where this guy's meant to be. And what you were saying earlier about the fact that you've never sort of taken that, you've always sort of looked to push yourself, which is a sort of an amazing thing based on the career you've had. But you must have sort of, there must be part of you which is just like, this is, how do I get better? How do I just, what's my next step? Because I'm at Cov, I'm a first team in the Premier League. Were you then looking to move in that summer afterwards?
No.
Just like happy to be.
No, I wanted to stay at Cov. I've always said there's only one team I'd have left. At that time, there was only one team that, whoever that bid was off, it was only one team I'd have gone to, and that was Liverpool. If it was anyone else, I wouldn't have gone. I would not. And I nearly did. I nearly still didn't go. There was, even when I was up there for the medical, and because I was happy. I loved it at Coventry. And obviously just been relegated. And I thought, I don't really want to leave on that. I want to try and get us back up. I was playing. I was happy. Obviously the relegation hurt, and I didn't want to leave on that either. But it was the only team that I would have left for. You
say you nearly didn't go. Was that so purely because you felt that you had almost unfinished business at Cov to get us back up?
Just because I was so happy there, and I was young. Right. I was just starting out my career. I loved the place. I loved getting into training. I loved playing at Highfield Road. I've always been a home person as well, so the thought of moving away was daunting at that age. I'm not ready for that. But as I said, it was just to pull it. Any other way, it wouldn't have even been a question. It'd have been a flat no. I mean, there was other teams that were after us at that time as well. But Liverpool has soon, I've always been a fan.
Yeah.
I just couldn't turn it down. I'd have always kicked myself because you just never know if that was going to come again. I knew about the move 6 months before it happened. I think I've spoke about that before. Obviously Gary Mack, who was at Liverpool, he was back down training at Coventry when his wife wasn't very well, and he's gone back up and told Gerrard, said, look, you got to get this lad. I've been with him before, and his rise, he's just gone through the roof. And he said, you've got to get him. So I was getting calls off Gary saying, look, we're going to sign you in the next window. Just keep doing what you're doing. There's no pressure on you whatsoever. So I knew about them, but even though you're getting told about it 6 months before, you're still thinking, well, something will happen. It'll never happen. So I just remember it like it was yesterday. I was in a fire and safety meeting with the youth team at Highfield Road, and it was about 5 o'clock, and I remember getting a call in the afternoon off, and I didn't have an agent, but this agent rang me and said, look, I work on behalf of Liverpool. They're putting a bid in for you in a couple of hours, be ready to travel up to Liverpool. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, in almost a way, because I was so young, and like I said, I was happy. I was thinking, I don't want the phone to go. And I was in the meeting, and I was checking my phone, and I was sweating, and then all of a sudden the door opened, and I knew it was as soon as Gordon popped his head around the corner, and as Gordon does when he pops his head around the corner, the whole place just goes quiet, and he just looked at me, gave me the nod, and said, Kirky, I need you a sec. And then he took me to his office and said, look, we've had a bid off Liverpool. I don't want you to go. The club doesn't want you to go, but we'll leave it entirely up to you. And he said, look, obviously the money men at the club are saying that we need to accept it, but he says, if you tell me now you don't want to go, I won't sell you. I don't want to sell you. And I froze. I was like, I don't know. He went, listen, Oggie's here. Do you want Oggie to come in? So Oggie was at the ground for something. I'm not sure what he was there for, but anyway, Steve come into the office with us, and Gordon told him, and Steve was just like, what are you still doing here? He says, none of us want you to go. We love you here. I know you don't want to go. I know you're scared. He says, go up there go up to Liverpool and be Liverpool's number one. He says, I know you'll do it. He says, I know you're going and play for Liverpool. He said, I know you're going and play for England. He said, I've trained you since you were 15. He says, I know how good you are. He says, go on and be the best Liverpool keeper they've ever had. And, when Oggie says that, I was like, yeah, I'm going to go up now. And so I literally left the Highfield Road, packed my stuff, went up for my medical. But even when I was up there, I went up with my girlfriend, wife now, Leona, obviously, I was with then and still am now. And my dad went up, and my uncle, and we went up there. Jim Blythe come up as well, actually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Jim come up with us because obviously we were close, very close. And but even when I was up there, I mean, I was still I was stuck I was having a medical till like 2 a.m. And the following day we went down to Anfield, deadline day, and I was at Anfield, and I was still not signed at this point, and I was like, I don't know, should I stay at Cov for another year? Should I? Can you loan me back? Will you loan me back for a year if I sign? And that was like, no, we want you here now. We want you to battle for the first team. We're signing Jersey as well. They should have told me they were signing another keeper as well. They told me exactly what they had planned for me over the next how many years. And I just said, listen, I need a minute. Can I go down to the stadium, down to the pitch? And Rick Parry, who's the chief exec, says, yeah, come on, I'll take you down. So we went down to the pitch, and I went and sat where I used to stand as a kid in the cop. Yeah, I said, listen, can I just have a few minutes? So I went and sat then, obviously, because there was seats then. But so I went and sat where I used to stand as a kid, and as soon as I went there and I was in the same place, I got the tingles and thought, yeah, listen, as a kid, this is what you wanted. You wanted to play for Liverpool. And I just stood up and said, yeah, let's just sign. I want to sign now. And that was it. And I signed, and that was it. I was up on Merseyside, but heartbreaking. I remember ringing Gordon, ringing Oggie, ringing Brian Richardson, and crying, saying, listen, I really didn't want to go. I wouldn't have gone if it was anyone else from Liverpool, apart from Liverpool. And it was really tough. And then I come back down and got my stuff from the training ground on the Monday and said goodbye to everyone. And that was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do.
To be fair, the way that you've described it there, the way that Oggie spoke to you, I nearly had tears in my eyes. If Oggie would have said to me at that point, go and join Nuneaton Borough, I'd have gone and done it. The way that you described it there is incredible. Yeah,
it did. It was like that. And it was just, and again, it was somebody I'd always respected. And, when he said that to me, even though I was still petrified, I just thought, yeah, you've got to go. This is Oggie telling you this, you've got to go. And yeah, listen, I'm close as anything with Oggie to this day. And like I said, without him, I wouldn't have had the career I had, because I owe him everything from an early age.
So just a couple of final questions on your sort of your Cov time, because I said it must have been weird because you were a youngster in that team that got relegated. Do you still? I mean, part of me, obviously, your opinion of Strachan is very different from mine, but you've got a very different relationship with the guy than I have. But was there a sense that he'd just run his race at Cov, or is that just a fan still bitter 20 years on, or is that?
No, I mean, listen, I like I said, when you're younger, I didn't think about it. When you're young and you're playing and you're just worried about playing and thinking about playing and training and stuff, you don't listen to any of the stuff that goes on off the park, honestly, and that's the truth. As a youngster, you just want to play. You're not bothered about anything else. You're just literally obsessed with training and playing. But I think you've just said there, I think no matter what would have happened, even if he would have stayed up, people would have still called for his head. That's just the way football is, unfortunately. I always speak of Gordon as I owe him everything, because he gave me my debut. He gave me my debut at an early age. He put his faith in me in a relegation battle. And like I said about Oggie, things in my career could have been very different if he wouldn't have played me, if he didn't bring me on at half-time against Tranmere in my debut. My career could have gone down a very different path. So I've got nothing but admiration. I went up to Scotland as his guest up to Celtic a few times. Me and the owner, we've stayed over at his house and stuff. So I owe him a lot, Gordon. But this is, I totally understand that fans will have their own opinions, and rightly or wrongly, that'll always happen. But as I said, for me, he was the one that started my career.
So you moved to Liverpool, and you go for £6 million, which, even though it's 20 years ago, was the most expensive goalkeeper in English football. You've played less than 30 games. You're joining a team who's won 3 trophies the previous summer. How do they treat you? I mean, where do you said that Jersey Dudek signed at the same time. So, and you're walking into a squad which is obviously highly talented, highly famous, and you're a lad who's sort of, no disrespect, you're quite circumspect and you're quite sort of, you're quite underplayed. Do they warm to you straight away? Do you have to go in with sort of this expectations on you? Obviously, a club it's got a lot of expectation anyway. They want to win the league title. So
you've got to prove yourself straight away.
Yeah.
Everyone's looking at you, thinking, why we sign this lad? It's like any signing that comes into a club for a large amount of money. You're thinking, all right, and what's so special about this kid? And obviously, the players you're coming in to take their position or whatever, they'll obviously say, well, he's not that good or whatever. So you've got to be on the ball from day one. I wasn't up to speed. I've always said this. I thought I was fit at Coventry, and I was always at the front of the running. I prided myself on my fitness. I went to Liverpool and realised just how much I needed to get fitter, because to no disrespect to the players at Coventry, but then you're working with Michael Owen, Steven Gerrard, you're working with all these top internationals, and the speed of the game, the speed of training. Robbie Fowler, just no backlift, bang, the ball can be past you before you even move. So I had to get up to speed pretty quickly, but it didn't take me too long to be able, because I had a great coach in Joe Corrigan who worked the socks off me from day one, and you quickly get up to speed. But yeah, I just, like I said at Coventry, I couldn't wait to get into the train into Melwood, and I was gutted when we had to leave to go home, because I was just obsessed with like football training in the gym after. I just loved everything about it, and obviously being a Liverpool fan as well, I just wanted to be in and around the club as much as I can. But I mean, as a club, they were second to none. They just treat you incredible. They've got so much respect for everyone. The staff just treat you as though you've been there 50 years. Anything you needed, anything you wanted. We went up there and Gerard Hullier come and picked us up personally from the hotel to take me from a medical in his own car. So, it's stuff like that some managers wouldn't do, but that's what Liverpool Football Club's all about, and that's why they've got the tradition and the history and the respect that they've got now, because that's always been there with Liverpool, and to be part of that was just, to see, especially when you went abroad on pre-season to Hong Kong or, America, and to see the fan base the club's got. I was a Liverpool fan, but I had no idea how big the club was until I moved up to Liverpool. And got in and around the club, and away games, thousands used to camp outside the hotels, and it was like everything. I'd never imagined it was that big, but it was everything and more. It was just magical to be a part of.
How did it affect?
Can I just jump us back a little second? So you said that when you went to Liverpool, you found that the training and the fitness was a sort of a step above what it was like at Cov, and you said that for where you were at Cov is that you were in pretty decent nick. You might want to tell me to go swing on this. Who was at the back end of the fitness of that Cov squad? So I'm surprised to hear that a goalkeeper would be at the top end of the fitness.
Well, Oggy was.
Who would?
Oggy was.
Was he really?
Yeah, Oggy was. He used to be right up there as well. And that's where I got it from. So I seen Oggy pre-season when we were in the youth team, and we used to go over and train at Stratford. I don't know if you remember that, but we used to go pre-season over at Stratford some pre-season.
NFU, wasn't it?
Yeah, and we used to see the first team, and I used to see Oggy at the front of the running and thought, I need to be that fit. I want to be that. So I was at the front of the running in the youth team, and then when I was in the first team at Cov, because of him again, he was the fittest, and I wanted to be. And yeah, right, you keeper gets beat. That used to be the old saying, didn't it? Oh, if a keeper beats you running, you've had it. So I wanted to beat all the others so they got absolutely hammered. Off the gaff, saying, "Oh, bloody keeper beat you," or whatever. That should never happen. So I wanted to be even fitter, just so that happened. And so did Oggy. We used to love it because the players used to get hammered. Right, if the keepers beat you, you're going to do it again.
Who would have been lagging behind at the back?
Well, Snowy wasn't the best runner. Noel Whelan, he didn't like running. Even though
I should imagine with that sort of hangover, it would be difficult.
Yeah, he was. I remember. Yeah, I'm sure you know when Snowy come back. Pre-season, and he'd had a good summer, put it that way. And because when you went away for pre-season with after the season, you reported back, and obviously if you're a pound overweight, I think it was something like it was you got fined huge amounts for how much he was overweight. I think Snowy come back one pre-season. I think he was about 20 pounds overweight, and it's no word of a lie. It was, and he did his calf in the first. Unsurprisingly, torn his calf in the first running session because obviously he wasn't in the right state. But but there was a few that didn't like the running. There was a few that just got through the motions. But that was back then. I mean, now the fitness levels over the years have just gone through the roof. Compared to what, like I said, I thought I was fit back then. But I was probably fitter at the end of my career than I was at the start of my career because sports science, all the equipment you've got, all the recovery and everything like that, I was fittest at the end of my career, really.
Well, it's like you played during quite an interesting period from the 2000s to not that many years ago. Is football, especially English football, has changed an awful lot in that time because I think... The day that we beat Villa 4-1, I think was the last time. So that was 99, 98. That was the last time that an all English team played on the pitch at the same time.
Wow!
And it's just so. And it's so got, obviously you went from Gordon Strachan, who we've just briefly discussed, and you went into Gerard Houllier, who was part of the French setup that won the World Cup. Was obviously a well-respected coach, not just nationally within France and England, but internationally. And then not long afterwards, that's the year that he got ill, and Phil Thompson takes over.
Yeah, I was on the bench. I was on the bench that day when he got ill. Yeah. When he had
so how does that affect the dynamic within the team? Because Phil Thompson, what I remember, had a really good spell when he was interim manager. And, obviously that season Liverpool finished second. So.
Yeah, well, Phil and Gerard, everyone used to think that they don't get on. They're like chalk and cheese, but my word, they had an amazing relationship. They got on so well. They bounced off each other. Phil knew that Gerard was the manager, but Gerard would lean on Phil for anything. But that game, obviously, where Gerard had his heart attack, and without the doctor, he wouldn't have made it at half time. Doc Waller, who was a club doctor, saved his life at half time. Wow. Obviously, we knew about it at the end of the game, but it was literally, without him there, the doctor knowing exactly. What to do. He wouldn't have, he'd have died there and then at Anfield. So obviously he Phil took over. He had Sammy Lee, obviously another Liverpool legend. Obviously Phil himself, Liverpool legend. So, you're being taught and coached and managed by two of the best players that have ever played for Liverpool. So it was an easy transaction, to be honest. The lads, we had Gary Mack was there, obviously. They leaned on Macca. It was, we missed Gerard but Phil and Sammy did an amazing job, and Gerard probably come back too soon. When he come back, he still looked gaunt. He still didn't look well, but he's just a football man. I mean, he used to sleep at Melwood. Gerard Houllier he had a bed put in his office because he was just obsessed. Yeah, he had a bed and a shower and all sorts put in his office because he was just obsessed with football, and one of the nicest blokes you could ever meet. He did so much for every player. You could go and see him about anything, Gerard Houllier, and he would help you out, and he just had that much respect. But even he admits after he come back too soon, he just wasn't ready to come back. He didn't look well. He was, like I said, he was gaunt, and it was far too soon for him to come back.
So when you were at Coventry under Strachan and you're at Liverpool under Houllier, how much interaction do you have with the manager themselves, or how much? Because obviously, what you've talked about is you obviously a great relationship with Jim Blythe, and then Joe Corrigan at Liverpool, who I think is another Liverpool legend, isn't he?
Yeah.
So, are you as a goalkeeper? Are you detached from the team a bit, or what's your interaction with the rest of the squad? How involved are you?
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously, on a personal level, Gordon, when Gordon used to walk in the room at Cov, he was only like 5 foot, but my word, he could shut a room up. He could, nobody messed with Gordon, but he was just, he just had that respect. He used to train with the players. He used to be, even when what did he play till he was 42, was he, Gordon?
It was around that, yeah. 41,
he was still the best player in training. Even when he was 42, he was still the fittest, still ran the furthest. And he just wanted people to know that if I can do this at my age, there's no excuse why you can't do it at your ages. And it was a brilliant example for the young lads to see, to be training with Gordon Strachan And to be seen the way he did, it was brilliant. Gerard Houllier, it was. Jim Blythe and obviously Gordon were very close, being obviously the Scottish. So never felt left out. Never felt degraded by a manager or anything like that. Gerard Houllier would come and see all the keepers in the morning before he went over to the outfield players. Because you train in different areas, you have your own goalie area, but he would always come over in the morning. How you doing, lads? Any problems? Anything like that. They were both brilliant in their own way.
Can I jump in and ask you a quick question?
Yeah, go
on the subject of, so you're talking about the relative merits of people like Gerard Houllier, and you talked about Jim Blythe and Gordon, Strachan and people like that. How much bearing does it have on the ability of a coach for them to have been able to either had a playing background or that they can demonstrate, still now that they're good?
Well, you're talking there. Obviously, Gordon, Gerard Houllier was he was never any good at football, was he? I mean,
he was a teacher, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
He'd had a football career of some description, hadn't he?
I don't think it was top level. Yeah, not the top. I think he was like 4th division or something, weren't he, in France? Or I don't even think that, did he? But obviously, when it comes to management, he was brilliant. You look at some of the other managers over the years, but Gordon, as I said, when he just seeing, and having that mix as well for young lads to be able to see someone. I think unless you work with someone from the outside, if you're saying, well, I'm going to go and work with that manager or that goalie coach, but they've never played football, then you'd think, well, how's that going to work? I'm not sure about that. But until you actually do it, and then you see the way these work, like obviously lucky enough to work with some top managers, with Steve Bruce as well. But obviously Gerard, had the career that Gordon had or Steve Bruce, but he was every bit as good because of the person he was. He was, as I said, it's not just about being good on the pitch; it's about what you are as a manager off the pitch. For me, Do
you think there's a bit of that is kind of lost in football, where people that possibly could be and add value to those positions aren't taken seriously because they've not had a career on the pitch? Because they seem to me both sort of intertwined, but also, separable, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, you'll always get that. But I had it with the Spanish goalie coaches at Liverpool and Wigan. And because it was just a totally different way to the way I'd been brought up, I just thought, I can't train with it. This is going to destroy me. And it did both times. Now, whether that was me being stubborn, or I don't think it was, it's just because of the training I was going into games just not sharp. But it's just different coaching methods. But at the end of the day, if you go into somewhere and that's the manager, if you don't do what they ask, you're not going to be in the team. I had that with Rafa at Liverpool. Rafa was completely different to Gerard Houllier. You couldn't go and see Rafa. Rafa was football. Anything else, he didn't want to know. It was simply that. But Gerard, and man managers, that's what I say about man managers. Probably one of the best I've ever worked with is Steve Bruce, because it's the whole package these days with managers. And then obviously then you've got the fact that he's lifted everything for Man U, and it's somebody you respect. But I've never been the one that will say, well, he's not played, I don't respect that. If I work with them, and then I'm thinking they've not got a clue, it's literally they've not got a clue, or I can't buy into this, then I'll never turn around and say, well, I'm not listening to you because you ain't got a clue, so I'm not that disrespectful. But I'll always give somebody a chance. But obviously a lot of people don't, and they want to work with people that have played the game and managed the game.
So, obviously the first season at Liverpool, you're sort of in and out. I think you made 4 appearances. The second season is your breakthrough season. You become first choice for a period. Yeah. And then, unfortunately, you get the first of without using a terrible cliche, a catalogue of injuries.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, in the next couple of years, Benitez comes in, and again, you get your first choice, and again, you get an injury. How are you coping with this sort of stop-start? You're at the club you want to be at. You're first choice goalkeeper. You're highly thought of by all football fans in the country. You're one of those. Everyone's expecting you to make that burst through because you've been around for a while. You're exceptionally talented, and then you get those injuries. And how are you dealing with that? How are you sort of getting back to fitness? Do you think you're coming back too soon to sort of prove a point, or is it just unfortunate? The injuries you get aren't they're not repetitive injuries. They're sort of almost freak injuries. How are you dealing with this at this point?
Well, you're never the same again after a serious injury. For one, I think any pro will tell you that you've got to be extremely lucky, because when you get a serious injury, your body's never the same again. Especially back in, going, as we talked about, sports science and all that, going back then as well, there wasn't as much medical things around back then. So, I did my PCL at Crystal Palace. I broke my wrist. I did my fingers. It was just one, like you said, it was one after the other, but it was serious injuries. It wasn't just, I didn't have niggles. It was, freak accidents in training. Harry Cool hit a ball at me from point blank range. I saved it. It was an incredible save, actually, but it broke my wrist. Daily had Ebola, my cruciate ligament, my back problem, which nobody knows about. How it started was literally as simple as we were doing a warm-up leapfrog. Remember leapfrog, where you just leaped over someone's back?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Steve Finnan leaped over my back, pushed on the bottom of my back, and slipped my disc. And as simple as that. That's how the back problems began.
Can I just say quickly, when you said, do you remember Leapfrog? I thought that was a player called Lee Frog. And I was desperate to not be outdone on Cov knowledge there.
Well-known Belgian player.
Yeah, I remember him. He was in the youth team in 2000.
Yeah, no, Steve. It was at Liverpool. Steve Finnan. Yeah, Steve Finnan. He leaped over me, pushed down my back. So Liverpool, unfortunately, was about the injuries more than anything else. The run that I did get when I got in and I was doing well, I did my cruciate, but it was hard to take off the pitch. It was tough. But obviously, I had my fiance at the time, which made it easy. I wouldn't have liked to have been in the house on my own during them times, especially as a young lad away from home. You can see why a lot of players struggle, and a lot of players do things they shouldn't do. But luckily, I had a good girl at home.
Yeah, I mean, you can imagine that some people who are sort of, obviously Jack Grealish has had his incidents in the last couple of months, or he had an incident, and obviously Kyle Walker. But I think it's very difficult, isn't it? I mean,
yeah,
it's a whole different. Everyone's finding the lockdown slightly or very difficult, depending on everyone's circumstances. Very difficult and different as well. And I think sometimes being football, you're seen as sort of having a charmed life, but it's not like that. Everyone has different experiences, and obviously you've gone from being you've gone through the Cov, you've got to Liverpool, everything every time you get the chance, it's going well, and something goes wrong, and obviously it also prevented you playing in the 2005, or potentially playing in the 2005 Champions League final.
Yeah.
And obviously, you're saying that obviously your relationship with Rafa Benitez isn't as strong as your manager. This is probably the first time in your career, shall I say, your relationship with the manager isn't as strong as it has been with your previous ones.
No.
And you're saying about the coaches as well, So Joe Corrigan's gone. Rafa's brought in a Spanish goalkeeping coach. He then brings in Pepe Reina, and you're now.
Oh, I knew the writing was on the wall before I left, but then I really knew it was on the wall when Rafa pulled me in and said that he didn't want an English goalkeeper, and he was going to sign. A Spanish goalkeeper. So I knew
quite a strong hint, isn't it?
Yeah. But to be fair though, he brought Pepe in, so yeah, I can't really argue with that one, to be honest, because he was not bad, was he, Pepe Reina? But I knew myself I needed to get out of Liverpool. I knew I needed to get back to working with an English goalie coach, a British goalie coach. Knew, the way I'd been brought up. I went to West Brom, and obviously Joe Corrigan was there. So I went there on loan, played 10 games, started the season great, got my form back. And then I got another whack at Bolton off Kevin Davis, hit me in the side. I come out and took a cross, and he's a big boy, obviously, Kev, and I've took it way above him, and he's gone into the side with his knee right into the side of my ribs.
Blimey.
And I knew something wasn't right, and I felt like I'd just been ran over by a truck, but I just didn't feel right inside. My insides, I just didn't feel right. I felt sick, and this was like 20 minutes into the game, so I got to half time, and I was really struggling, and I thought there's something wrong here, and I went to the toilet, and just blood come out. I just peed blood out. And I didn't say anything because I'd just gone to West Brom. I'd been at Liverpool, got stale, moved to West Brom. I thought, I can't, I've got to carry on here. I can't not say anything. This is my chance to get back playing football again. And so I carried on the second half, but I nearly passed out how many times, and I got home that night and went toilet, and I just said to Leona, I travelled back down to West Brom, and said, there's something wrong here, something really wrong, and there was blood. And then the next day, I got rushed to hospital the next day, and he'd lacerated my kidney, basically he'd ruptured my kidney.
Way.
So I was out for a long time of that at West Brom, and
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, and then obviously, but then I went back to Liverpool. Then that summer, Rafa told me then that obviously been out on loan, it's not quite worked out, but I'm signing. I don't want an English goalkeeper. I'm signing Pepe, so you're gonna have to find yourself another club. So I still had like four. Sorry.
So have you got a what's the word? My brain's gone. Have you got a agent at this point who's?
So I've got an agent, Colin Gordon, who he's from the Midlands. So I still had like 4 years left on my Liverpool deal. But he says, you're not going to play here, you're not going to be involved. You're not going to train with us, you need to find another club. So, which I knew that was going to happen. So I was getting married that summer as well. So Wigan rang us. I knew I needed to get back to a British goalie coach again. So Paul Jewell rang up at Wigan, obviously just down the road from where we lived. He said, look, come here, I've got Gary Walsh, he knows exactly what you need. We'll get you back playing again. And I went there, and that's probably the best period of my career from 2006 to 2010. That's the best I've ever played. Everything clicked. Obviously, PJ left. Steve Bruce come in. Nigel Spink come in as the goalkeeper coach, same as Gary Walsh, same as Joe Corrigan and Jim Blythe. It was just, I loved it. It was just right. The training was just me. And my form just went through the roof. And unfortunately, then at Wigan, when Steve left and Roberto come in, he got rid of the English goalie coach, brought a Spanish goalie coach in. As soon as he did that, before I even trained for the first time, I just thought, I'm going to end up leaving here. I just knew the way it was going to go again. And my form dipped, and then I was out of the team for about a year, and obviously had to leave then in 2012. So the dog's just about to bark.
That's fine, go on.
Yeah, we've taken too much of your time. The dog's getting angry.
No, don't be that.
So I said you've skipped over obviously a major event in your career, which is your unfortunately one and only England cap.
Yeah.
Now, as you say, you got that England cap just when you went to Wigan
before the first game, before we debut.
How are you? So you've gone to Wigan, you've got an England cap, and it's a 4-0 victory over Greece. You're in and around the squad. Do you feel it was because you're at Wigan that you then weren't sort of called back on, or? It's very odd that you've got to the England squad. As you say, your form for those 4 years is the best of your career.
Yeah, well, no. To be honest, it was partly my. I mean, the first year or so, no, but then after that, it was partly my decision because I was suffering with a back injury. A lot of people didn't know about. I did have a bad time with the back, so I sort of had to pull myself out of England. I said that I wasn't available because I couldn't. I had to. When it was internationals, I had to rest because else I wouldn't have been fit for Wigan, and I needed to be fit for I thought it was more important for me to get my club career back on track, and we all come to the agreement. England agreed as well because I was going to squads and I was having to pull out because my back would spasm up, or I wouldn't be able to train. I wouldn't be able to train every day with England. And it just didn't sit right with me. I've never done anything half-hearted. I didn't want to go down there and only be able to train every other day or miss sessions. And it's not fair on England. And I didn't want that to be me. I just didn't want to do bit parts. So we just decided that I would pull myself out of it. I think it was under Capello. Anyway, I had a bit of I went down there, my back went, and I wanted to go home because I couldn't move. The England physio said, look, he's going to be in bed for 3 weeks. He can't do anything. And Fabio says, no, he's got to stay here. And the physio come back upstairs and says, look, Fabio said you can't go home. You've got to stay here. And I went, what, just stay in bed? He went, yeah, until the end of the camp. And I just went, well, I ain't doing that. So I went to see Fabio, like hobbled like a 90-year-old, and just said, look, I'm going home. And he just went, are you sure? I went, yeah. He went, okay, bye. And then I was never in a squad after that anyway, because he made sure of it anyway. But yeah, it was sort of, but it was more at that point in my career. It was more important to get my club career back on and my career back on track.
So are you a bit, because obviously you talk about obviously there's been quite a few footballers like Paul McGrath towards the end of his career who basically only played. Are you getting to that point where your back can spasm at any point? So is it the back of your mind all the time?
Until I strengthened it up, yeah. I mean, until I strengthened it. So I knew I had to do work on it. Basically, I knew when it was internationals, I worked with a lady on back strengthening. I did everything I possibly could. So I knew that if I didn't do any work on my back, it would always keep spasming. And it did at certain points, but it got stronger and stronger and stronger. And my last 10 years of my career, my fitness record stands up against anyone. I think it was like 96%, including games, training. I never met a lot of people think about this myth that he's always injured, that never trained and stuff like that. Yeah, when I was at Liverpool, it was tough. But after that, from 2006 until I retired, my record was better than anyone in any team I was at.
I was going to say, because at Wigan, your sort of first choice, you're obviously very highly thought of at Wigan. And then they say your second period under a Spanish manager.
Yeah.
And then you're out on loan, so you're at Leicester, you're at Doncaster, and then you find another home at Sheffield Wednesday under again another English manager.
Yeah.
Was it an easy decision to make a step down from the Premier League to I mean, Sheffield Wednesday are obviously a massive club, but
to be honest, it was probably the only option I had.
Oh, okay.
Because I had a couple of other options, but there weren't anything appealing. It was the most appealing one to me, because for 2 years, like you just said there, people thought I was injured at Wigan for 2 years. I wasn't. I just wasn't picked. He just preferred somebody else to me. I was training every day. I was available, but I just didn't pick me. So for 2 years, a lot of people said, well, why has he not played for 2 years? He must be injured, or he must be this, that, but it wasn't the case. I knew as soon as I went to Sheffield Wednesday, and I actually had a clause in my contract at Sheffield Wednesday. So my agent rang me and said, look, Sheffield Wednesday are desperate for you, but they've got to protect themselves. And I said, what do you mean? He says, well, they think your back's knackered. And I said, well, that's not true. And he says, yeah. I said, so what do they want? Tell me that's come out of it. And he was like, wow. I said, Colin, tell me what they want in the contract. And he says, well, they want a clause in it that if you miss 3 games on the spin, he says, and bearing in mind this could be Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday in the Championship. So he said, this could be a week. They could rip your contract up. And he says, so if your back goes and you miss 5, a week, 3 games, they're going to rip your contract up. And I said, that's fine. So because it's not going to happen. I know it's not. I know how good my back is. I know exactly what I've done to strengthen it up. I said it's not an issue. So nobody knew that about it. Obviously, you don't publicise things like that when you sign for teams. But so I knew that how fit I was, and I went to Sheffield Wednesday and knew as soon as I got back training with a British goalie coach who was Andy Rhodes at the time, who was there. As soon as I got back there, I said, listen, my form will come back. I know it will, and it did. I won Player of the Season first season, played every game for 2 seasons. It was just obviously stuff off the pitch started to take its toll a little bit then.
So what's the major difference then between what do British goalkeeping coaches do different from Spain? Is it a different routine, just like they emphasise on?
Yeah, tempo. So because I've worked with Oggy and basically, you work as hard as you can. It's volleys, repetitions, you're up, down, sharp as you can. But the Spanish way is just very relaxed. You don't get volleys. It's all hand service, which for me, you don't get somebody coming, throw a ball at you in a match. You get them smashing it 80 miles an hour at you. So it was just very false for me. A lot of it was footwork, which obviously now is a huge part of the game, but that was basically it. That's all they wanted you to do, like ball at your feet. And I was thinking, I want to save shots. I knew the way the Premier League was and how difficult it was. And, you get crosses come in. And I mean, obviously that's not as big a part of the game now, but at that time it was. But it was just totally, I'd come off the training pitch. We'd train some days with Roberto and Rafa for like 2.5 hours, and you'd literally do nothing. You would come off the training pitch and be stiffer when you come off than when you went on, before you even got warmed up. So I just felt as though I just wasn't doing anything. I wasn't doing anything. I went to see him and said, look, I need more work. I need to train. I need more volleys. I need more repetitions. And they just said, no, you don't. This is the way you're going to train. You have to get used to it. And obviously I didn't, and missed the way I used to train. But it was no coincidence. As soon as I got back to training the way that I'd always trained and been brought up, my form come back.
I mean, it's got to be a two-way street, hasn't it? Because you've obviously got managers who want to put an emphasis on the way they want to play, but also every player is different. So if you've got if you sort of, this is how I want to train, and you've got a player coming to you and going, well, actually, that's fine, but can you do this with me as well?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You'd be like, oh, that's fine. You know, as long as you stick to what I want you to do as the basis, if you want to do more than that.
I was asking for more work. I mean, I wasn't going there saying I don't want to. You know, which some players do, by the way. I've known players that I'll leave that. I don't need to do today, or I don't need to do that. But I was saying I need more work. And when I was at Liverpool, me and the young lad who was a young lad at the time, Paul Harrison, who was English as well, we used to then after training drive to my house and train in my garden. Honestly,
nice, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. And then when I was at Wigan under Roberto, I used to leave training and get a goalie coach to come and train me down at my house or down at my local park. Obviously, Wigan never knew about it, and Roberto didn't. But because I was still playing at the time, and I thought, I'm not sure, I need to, you know, so on a Thursday and Friday, I used to have train at Wigan and then go straight down to the local park and do my own stuff.
Is there a black market for coaching?
Like
a dark web? Is that where you had to go to get illicit goalkeeping coaching?
Luckily, my agent had a few contacts.
For the Godfather.
And then, unfortunately, your time at Sheffield Wednesday sort of comes to a sort of an end when they signed former Coventry keeper Kieran Westwood.
Yeah.
And you end up sort of going on loan to Preston and being...
No, I signed for Preston.
Oh, you signed for Preston? Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to sign again.
Didn't they have... what's the name of the guy who was at Preston with you?
Jordan
escapes me.
There's a number of good players, weren't there?
Jordan Pickford.
Yeah.
That's the guy. Did you sort of see a bit of yourself in him, or?
I did. Yeah, I did. It was... obviously, I knew I left Sheffield. Listen, I loved it at Sheffield Wednesday, but the travelling and everything off the pitch, it was just I was not in a good way, and I just thought getting closer to home would help reverse that, but it didn't. But it was hard leaving Sheffield. Amazing club like Liverpool, fans were brilliant, but I thought getting closer to home would help. So I signed for Preston. Simon Grayson said, "Look, I've got this lad Jordan Pickford coming in. I want you to nurture him. I want you to be number 2. He's going to play." Which I was fine with because I was coming towards the end of my career anyway, and plus, like I said, I had issues off the pitch and I couldn't concentrate on playing as well. So he just said, listen, you know, take the days and stuff like that. It was only 20 minutes from my house as well. But Jordan was incredible. He was one of the best I've ever worked with. I thought, wow, this lad's definitely going to be England's number 1. I think he's lost his way a little bit recently. I think I've said it before, I think he gets too involved with the crowd. But what I seen at Preston, he was just, oh my God, he was incredible.
Do you think he's just struggling to compartmentalise, this is my job as a footballer, and sort of cut out all the noise?
Yeah, he needs to. He needs to just concentrate on the football side of it. He gets too involved with the crowd. And then in turn, that when you do that and you give the crowd a little bit, you're never going to win that. So as soon as you make a mistake, they're onto you. The press will be onto you. So yeah, I think he just needs to. I mean, it's part of it. It's part of what makes him. You know, the way he is part of what makes him so good. But he's just got to not make sure he steps over that fine line between arrogance and being overconfident. And I just think he's just got to be very careful at the minute. You can just, you know, from what I seen at Preston, it's just different to what I see now, and it's unfortunate. You know, for me, he's still England's number 1, but he's just got to be very careful because I think we've seen it with the press. They've jumped on him at times. You know, they've said he gets far too het up in the tunnel, which I think he does. Joe Hart had a similar thing. You've got to be very careful because people will always criticise you and jump on. But I don't think he's done himself any favours at the minute.
How did you blank it out? Because obviously I know again. I know it's different from the Premier League to the lower leagues, but you know at Fleetwood you're literally a yard away from the goalkeeper who can hear every word you say.
Yeah,
and obviously if you're in front of the cop, you probably can't hear a word of anyone saying.
Well, there's games where you go through games where you don't hear the crowd at all. Even if you're playing in front of 60,000, you'll come off the pitch thinking, "Wow, actually." Didn't even hardly hear anything then because you're so engrossed in the game and you're so, you know, mentally, you know, focused on the game. And then there'll be other things, as you said, you'll hear stuff and some of it's what you hear is horrendous. But you've got to just block it out. You've just got to say, right, it's gone, concentrate on the game. But it is hard sometimes, very hard. And you know, you want to turn around sometimes and and tell them what for or whatever. But yeah, you've got to be. That's what it is. It's not 97% of football is mental. You've got to be mentally strong. Because if you're playing football, you're a good player. You're a very good player. If you're one of these top teams, you don't go there unless you're a very good player anyway. So, but a lot of it, and more so these days, is more mental because of the pressures. It's more of a business now instead of football. With the owners and everything like that. So you've got to be mentally very strong these days to play football.
So obviously you've now retired and you're coaching Liverpool ladies.
Not anymore.
Oh, you not anymore? Sorry.
No. I left up because I was doing too much. I had too much other stuff on, and I wasn't enjoying it as much. First 6 months ago, but I've not been there for 8-10 months now. I do a lot of other stuff now for Liverpool, like foundation, charity stuff, which I enjoy more, to be honest.
What did you not enjoy?
For your sake, Paul.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it. Listen, for 6 months, it was. Never thought about doing it, but obviously my daughter was in the academy and I got a call off Neil Redfern and I do a lot of stuff at Liverpool anyway. I said, look, will you come and do part-time with the keepers? That turned into full-time. I enjoyed it for the first 6 months. It was brilliant. Obviously Neil left pretty sharpish. He was only there for a couple of weeks and he wasn't happy with stuff off the pitch and he left. But I enjoyed it for 6 months. But after that, I wasn't enjoying it and I was having to miss training sessions to do other stuff. Which was important for me to do, and it wasn't right I didn't feel right leaving the girls and not being there for Vic and being assistant manager. It didn't fit right because I couldn't give it 100%. It just didn't fit right with me. I've never been that, so I said, listen, the best thing for me to do is walk away so I can do the other stuff that's important to me as well, and you get somebody else in. But I enjoyed it. It was different working with the women, but very enjoyable.
Can I ask, have you got any precedent for working with the women? How did that come about?
It was just literally because I do a lot of stuff at Liverpool anyway. I do like a lot of stuff with the TV and do the 18s, the academy and the 23s and the first team. It was literally Neil Redfern rang me and said, "Look, I'm taking the job. We need a goalie coach." I'd never worked with him before. Just said that somebody said that get Kirk. He lives just down the road from where they train near Tranmere. He's doing nothing at the minute. He literally rang up and said, "Look, do you fancy it?" And I wasn't doing anything at the time, and I just thought, yeah, you know what, I will. I'll give it a go. And because, as I said, my daughter was in the academy, I thought it'd be nice to see that side of it. And it was, I enjoyed it for 6 months. It's different. The tough thing I found was playing in front of, you train all week and then you go and play at Brenton in front of like 100 fans. And it started to just, I wasn't looking forward to it. I was thinking, I just couldn't get up for it anymore. And, it become hard.
So I've got to confess my own ignorance here because I'm not a massive follower of the women's game. But ultimately, I wonder if I was. Bearing in mind what you're saying there, one, I've got a lot of respect for you, the fact that you wanted to get involved and get your hands dirty and everything. But I wonder if I was a big follower of the women's game, whether I would look at that as being a bit... I'm going to just put it out there and say disrespectful. There must be lots of women's goalkeeper coaches that would have loved it, and that effectively you got a phone call because you lived down the road. Was that difficult for you to step into, or what?
Into the women's side of it?
Well, it's a very different world, isn't it?
It is. You got to be. Listen, you got to be. I live in a house with two women. Obviously, there's the women's problems they have. All this comes into play. You have to be obviously be very careful what you say, but trust me, they give as good as they get as well.
Don't doubt that for a second. But is that a kind of was that your first experience in coaching?
No, I've done stuff at Port Vale men's, and I've been at.
You had, sorry, you're absolutely
right. Yeah. I've done bits and bobs. Listen, I've had opportunities to go into it, and I just didn't feel it was the right time. But this just, with it being Liverpool as well, and because I was involved heavily with the club anyway, I just thought, yeah, listen, give it a go. It's Liverpool Football Club. If it had been any other team, then no, I wouldn't have done it. But because I was heavily involved with Liverpool and it was Liverpool, my daughter was in the academy, I thought, yeah, why not? I'm doing nothing else at this time, why not? But then the commitment was just too much because I was having to miss a lot of stuff with mental health, going to talking at mental health seminars, which was important to me. I was having to miss a lot of other stuff that I didn't want to miss, basically. And I thought at that time it was more important for me to do that sort of stuff than the football side of it. And I wasn't enjoying it as much as I should do. So it wasn't fair on the girl. It wasn't fair on the keepers I was training, or on Vicky, the manager, or all the girls. It wasn't fair on them. So I didn't want to cheat them. So I just said, listen, it's best that I leave now.
I suppose that's the thing, because obviously we go to football matches virtually every year, that's Saturday or whatever. But so I've been doing it for a long time. But obviously our match day is very different from yours. And being a professional sportsman, it must be all encompassing. And you've obviously you miss quite a lot of stuff with your family due to your commitments to football. So I suppose you've got to be wholehearted into it to.
Yeah, another big reason those sort of activities. Yeah. Another big reason was as well that I was missing. Lucy was playing on Saturdays for Liverpool under 14s, and I was having to train with the women's on a Saturday, so I weren't getting to see my daughter play. And like you just said, I'd been away so much and missed so much throughout my career that this was a time to give back to the family. And I didn't want to, not see my daughter play. I didn't want to miss things because of that, family-wise as well, and obviously the other stuff with the mental health and other bits and bobs with Liverpool TV. I just didn't want to miss any of that, but that was a big one as well, with the daughter playing Saturdays and not being able to see her play. Yeah, and like I said, I wasn't enjoying it anyway at that point, so I walked away.
All right, Chris, I'm going to make you chair of all English football, because obviously I'm hoping you're biased at this point, and we've got the lockdown.
Yeah.
How do you resolve it? Do you just give Liverpool the league title and promote Coventry?
In an ideal world, yeah, but I don't think that's ever going to happen, is it? I honestly, you know what? I honestly don't know. I don't see how the season can continue. Morally, I think it's wrong. With what's going on at the minute, there's still how many people dying. I just don't. I honestly don't know. I'm on TalkSport tomorrow with Jim and Simon Jordan, so I'm sort of thinking, what am I going to be saying tomorrow?
Well, just elaborate on that though, Chris. Though, what takes you to TalkSport tomorrow?
Sorry, what's that?
Yeah, what takes you to TalkSport tomorrow specifically?
Well, we're talking about this watch thing. We've got the Walking and Talking charity thing with Mark Crosley and Dean Windass. We're doing a charity hike next summer up Kilimanjaro, and we're trying to raise a lot of money for the NHS, and so we're on about that tomorrow. But yeah, I'm sure he will ask about the football situation, which I have not got a clue about. Honestly, I just don't see how you can. Obviously, go on, mate.
Do you know what time you're on TalkSport tomorrow? Because we're going to try and put this out ready for first thing in the morning.
12:30 I'm on tomorrow.
Okay.
I mean, I'm a bit like you. I think one of my issues is the desperation to resolve this season.
Yeah. Listen, if there wasn't the money involved in football, the only reason we are considering football, which is because of the money.
Well, we'd also quite like to get promoted.
Yeah, but in turn gets more money for the clubs. Do you know what I mean?
You're right. Obviously, I'm only messing.
Yeah, honestly, it's like, particularly. I mean, listen, there's nothing more than I love to see Cov get back up and Liverpool win the league. At the minute, I just think morally, like, you're talking then if you go back to games, even though there's not going to be fans there, you're going to get fans turn up at games. You got to use the NHS, you got to use the ambulance service to be at games. I just think at the minute.
Do you think fans will turn up really?
Yeah. Oh, you'll get fans outside grounds and stuff, without a shadow of doubt.
Well, I suppose my issue is, as I said, I don't see the desperate need to resolve this season, because on the current situation, I don't see how next season starts in a better position. I'm not sure when next season a season would start which doesn't have some of the major issues we've got the same as resolving this season. Because, I mean, I live within spitting distance of Old Trafford, and as you know, that's 75,000 people.
Yeah.
And 30,000 of them get there by Metrolink.
Yeah.
And or buses. So the whole concept of Old Trafford being full again is just beyond my comprehension.
It's going to be next year, isn't it? It's going to be next year before, at the earliest, before fans are going to be allowed in, But honestly, I wouldn't like to be in the meetings we're having at the minute with the Premier League and the teams and stuff like that, because you're just not going to agree. That's the biggest thing. Not everyone's going to agree. Everyone's going to have their own opinions. The teams in the bottom three now are saying, well, scrap the season, and as it stands, nothing counts. They'll be desperate for that. But then you've obviously got teams at the top who are going for promotion, going for playoffs. It just must be an absolute headache. But I just think you've got to remember, it's yes, it is a huge part of people's lives and football and everything, but you've got to take, it is football at the end of the day. You're talking about, people dying and everything like that. You've got to see to that first before, there's nothing more than anyone would love to see football back again, but you've got to take, our best friends I'm probably speaking more like this because our best friend's a matron at a hospital in York, and, she's Leona's best friend since kids, and we know some of the stuff that she's been through over the last how many weeks, like a lot of NHS workers have, and I just think it's just not the time for football. Hopefully in a few months' time, yeah, brilliant, because I think then it will give everyone the boost, because I think everyone realises just how much we do miss football, and it'll be a major boost when it is back. But I'm not sure this is a time yet. Definitely not.
Having friends in the NHS, I sort of agree. I 100% agree with your sentiments there. Got sort of a couple of more sort of fun questions, I suppose. Now, during my research, Wikipedia says you're 6'6", and Soccerbase says you're 6'4".
6.
How tall are you?
6'6".
6'6". I'll ditch off Soccerbase.
199 centimetres.
Ooh, I bet you're gutted by that 1 centimetre.
Well, I thought, it's 6'6", so some say that is 2 metres bang on, but yeah, I think it's 199, I think.
Oh, but with that back injury, about 195 now, yeah?
No, well, it's good now. There's no issue. I'm probably taller now. I'm probably over 2 metres now.
All right, so player you'd have most liked to have been in lockdown with, that you played with?
Oh, jeez. I can think of a few I wouldn't want to be in lockdown with.
That's question number 2.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to be in lockdown with probably. Oh, that is a good question. Probably Charles and Zogby I wouldn't want to be in lockdown with.
Say more.
Say no
say
more.
Okay.
Say no more. Yeah, best I don't say anymore. And then with, that'll be. Do you know what I'm going to say, Oggy? I want to be in lockdown with Oggy.
Just both of you, just training.
Just playing golf. We could chip, like training. We could play golf together. Definitely Oggy.
Can we just elaborate on Oggy for a second? Because Oggy obviously is about as Cov legend a Cov legend could possibly be. If there was really outside of Jimmy Hill, if there was going to be another statue erected, it would be of him.
Oh, it has to be. I'm surprised there's not been.
This season is that he's been on CWR, and that we've been gobsmacked by how brilliant a pundit he is as well. And the way that you've described him as a bloke there is when you was talking about your Liverpool move. Well, so just because he's not someone that's like an open personality, but you've led some insight into it there. Why is he so brilliant?
He's just one of them people, them people you meet and you just get on with straight away. And sometimes they don't even have to speak, and you just know that you just feel at ease in their company. And you just, and then when they do start talking, it's like you could just listen to him all day long. I mean, he's just everything he says, people respect, and everything he says, you just have your grip for every word he says to you. You just, a lot of people say I was obsessed with him. I probably was, probably still am a bit, but I just know the type of man.
Fans are, mate. You're right there.
Yeah, it was just like I said, without working with him when I did at 15, and seeing the way I wouldn't have been as dedicated as I would have needed to be. He showed me the way it was. He showed me the only way it was to be. But he's like I said, he's a legend, and he should have a statue outside Coventry for me. Because of what he did for the club, not just playing but after as well. I always thought he'd end up being manager, I must admit. When they were chopping and changing and he was still there, I rang him up and said, "Oh, come on, it's got to be your time now, surely you're going to take the job." He's like, no. He says, "No, I'll help whoever comes in, but no, I can't." No,
smarter than that.
Yeah, he was like, no. He actually said, "No, they'll never give it to me. Do
you think he fancied it?
Done it. He'd have done it if they'd have offered him.
Really?
Yeah, he'd have done it, definitely. Because straight away, like I said, he'd have got that respect off the players straight away. You got to play, a manager walks into the door and some players will go, "Oh, I've heard bad things about him," or "I've heard this, that." But with Oggy, if he'd have walked into that dressing room straight away, everyone would have sat up straight, their heads would have been up straight, and he'd have got that respect straight away before he even said a word. And I always thought he would have been a manager. I always said to him, I'm surprised you never did it. but for whatever reason, he didn't do it. But he'd have definitely, if he would have done, he'd have made a success of it because of the attitude he's got.
Keepers are not, there's not, apart from Jose Mourinho's, whether or not he was a professional goalkeeper, but goalkeepers aren't one of those positions that turn into managers, are they? They're
Nunes, Wolves, he's done all right.
Yeah. Nigel Adkins, I think, was a keeper, wasn't he?
Yeah, there's not many, right?
But all that does is prove your point, Paul, is that the 2 is the best you can think of anyway.
Yeah, there's not many. I mean, I always thought I'd quite like doing it, but not now. Not now, definitely not now. There's I think being a manager now, you've got to be thick-skinned. It's 24/7. You look at, I'd speak of it when you look at managers when they come out of the game and say they're out of the game for 4 or 5 months, they look 30 years younger. They go back into a job and after 2 or 3 weeks, they look 50 years older again. The stress of being a manager it must be well, look what he did to Gerard Houllier at Liverpool. Look what it's done to a few managers over the years with heart trouble. I was
going to say, but there's also a tremendous amount to be said for the self-recognition of. I think if you've come out of being a player, the easiest thing is to think, I'll go into management then, because it seems like the most natural thing to do, because it's like a weird sort of promotion, isn't it, in weird sense?
Yeah.
But actually, there's a tremendous amount to be said for someone that can look inside themselves and go, this ain't right. Because I think that you've then got to do the much harder thing and say, well, what do I do instead? Which is the ultimate conundrum for a footballer, isn't it, I suppose?
Well, we talked about Ian, didn't we? I think when Dean was playing football, everyone would have said, including me, thought he'll be a great manager. He'll definitely go into the coaching side, he'll definitely be a manager. But obviously, Dion didn't think it was for him for whatever reason. There's
do you
other
think
managers.
It's harder now?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think it's a lot of it these days as well is who you know getting jobs in football. You look at. I'm on about coaching jobs as well. Most people that get coaching jobs now, it's because they know somebody that's there or they got a mate at a club or whatever there. It doesn't matter about your CV or yes, for some people they'll walk into jobs. But for you talk of how many people finish the game, you're talking tens of thousands coming out of the game, and it's who you know these days. It's like anything, it's who you know these days.
Yeah, I suppose it's just you'd like to think that people get jobs on merit, but life doesn't work like that, does it? Really, it's a bit of a. I mean, there must have been players that you've played with, excluding Dion and Oggy, who must have been like the because there was always high respect of Danny Murphy. There was always talk of Danny Murphy being sort of one of the brains in the Liverpool squad.
Yeah, he was.
And obviously, he's not gone on to. I mean, he's gone on to be a pundit. I mean, whether or not he's just interested to be a pundit or.
Carra was one I always thought. I mean, knew Stevie would. Carra, never thought Harry Kewell would. Been in the dressing room, never thought he would. He goes on. Like I said, some people surprise you that you'd think never in a million years would they. But yeah, Carra was one I thought. But I think Carra knows that if he did, he'd be flipping. He'd have people up against the walls and all sorts. He would with his temper. So I think,
he'd find it. I think once you've been a pundit for as long as he has and been the type of pundit that he has been. Yeah. I think almost if he didn't go into any team and win the first 10 games, he'd be hammered anyway. I mean,
sometimes you don't even get that long, do you? Sometimes you don't even get. I mean, you've got a bit like what is it? What's the average now for a manager in the lower leagues? Is it 8 months, 9 months?
If that, yeah.
If that, and it keeps coming down, doesn't it? It keeps coming down and down and down. So you've got to be very lucky. You've got to hit the ground running. You've got to have a chairman that will back you no matter what. But to get time in football these days it's tough, really tough.
Paul, where are you at with your final questions?
Well, I mean, there's just my only question is the final question that we asked everyone is name a 5-a-side team with COV players that you've played with.
Oh, brilliant! Love that one. Oggy in goal, obviously.
Not yourself.
No, definitely not. Oggy in goal. There's only one goalkeeper. Up front, I'd have Robbie Keane. Gary Mack in midfield. Centre back, I'm probably going to go for Shawsey. Centre back. I need two defenders, so I'll go Shawza and probably Roland Nielsen.
Oh, of course, good era.
It's going to be hard not to pick Roland Nielsen.
Yeah. proper defenders at the back.
Even for five-a-sides, you get the impression that him with his smoking jacket on would still be bossing things at the back.
What a pro he was! What a professional he was! He was just a gentleman as well. Just like you talk about the respect, and oh my word, he was just incredible to train with him as well. Like I said, even when he was older, he was the fittest, one of the fittest there. You know, the way he worked, the gym, everything like that. To see older pros like that working like that was a dream for us young lads.
So who we got so far? We've got Roland, we've got Richard Shaw.
Yeah, Keane, midfielder.
Macca in midfield, McAllister. And Robbie Keane up front.
There we go.
Sweet team.
I'm going to ask this question because it's right at the end. So, what was it like playing with Craig Bellamy?
Sorry, what was that? Say that again.
What was it like playing with Craig Bellamy?
Bellas, oh my word. I had to actually pick him up from the hotel. When he first signed, he stayed at the Hilton Hotel. So I had to pick him up every morning on my way, because I lived in Hinckley, so I used to go down the 69 and stop off at the Hilton and pick him up every morning. Never used to say thank you, just used to get in a car, miserable git. Got stupid training. He was a pain in the arse. I remember that a lot of the lads wanted to pin him up against the wall. He was, he didn't have too many friends, but he was some player. He was, he was an exceptional player, but a little bit, a little bit disrespect sometimes to some of the older players when he was there. But that he was young, weren't he, when he first come, and he was a bit of a Jack the Lad, and he didn't have too many friends when he was at Coventry. When I was around anyway.
Can I ask you? You've played for lots of clubs of varying size. How much do people with that sort of kind of attitude get away with it? Because with Bellamy at Cov, he was brought in as a replacement for Robbie Keane, weren't he? And he didn't I think he only scored 4 goals that season. And there's a level to which I imagine that your sort of temperament and your talent are opposite sides of a balancing act, aren't they? And that you're willing to take a lot more from a better player. But is that bullshit? Or
he calmed down quick, I'll give him that. When he calmed down quick because he had to, because we talked about the players in the dressing room.
You'd have killed him, basically.
They did. Yeah, they brought him down pretty quick, and he wasn't any trouble, to be fair. He made a few comments here and there, but on the pitch, he did the business quite a lot of times, and he certainly changed when he first came.
But he was unfortunate, Cov, as you say. He was unfortunate, Cov, and the fact that I think he'd had a cruise ship at Norwich.
He did at Norwich.
He was replacing Robbie Keane. I'd drag this story out every time. But we played Swindon in the FA Cup, and Bellamy missed a chance, and the guy next to me was like, "Oh, Robbie Keane would have scored that." And it was like, I think Pele would have struggled to score. It was an impossible chance that he hit as well as he could have done. But at Cov, he was.
Yeah, Robbie was just incredible.
Yeah, at Cov, he was just not given a chance.
But I think Bella's throughout his career, I think everyone would probably say the same, wouldn't they? He was a mouthy git, weren't scared to say what he wanted to do or say that. But yeah, he quickly got told his place when he come to Coventry because of the pros we had there. I
mean, if you play with Bellamy, but Charles Ndoglu is still the player you would least like to be in a lockdown with. That says a lot about Charles.
It's only because he could speak, but he never spoke English. So I'd be literally in a room with someone that wouldn't want to speak any English, even though he could. He just spoke French all the time. So he wouldn't speak to me, would he? Even though
was he just awkward? Was he just
He just didn't care. He was just more bothered about money. He just wasn't bothered about football. He just wanted his paycheck. At the end of the month, and he wasn't bothered whether the team won or lost at the weekends.
And it's funny
I couldn't share a room with someone like that.
There's a really funny irony about that, because of course Joe Kinnear got in loads of trouble for calling him Charles Insomnia, and there was a lot of kind of press attack on Joe Kinnear, quite rightly, about the fact that he couldn't be bothered to pronounce one of his own players' names. But then actually that player equally couldn't be bothered to try and converse with. So of all the players that could have been, not justifying it, but actually in a weird sort of poetic way. Well, the only
reason, I probably should say why. Because when we was at Wigan, we obviously got smashed in with Spurs 9-1, and we were all devastated.
Yeah. But as well, can we just say, I remember that game vividly. That ain't on you.
Yeah, trust me, as a keeper, you take it personal. But the day after, we're all in a bad way, devastated, and we all said, look, we're all going to pay for all the fans that went down there, pay for the tickets, pay for the travel, everything like that. Right, we all in, lads, in the dressing room. Everyone says, yeah, definitely. Charles went, no, I'm not. And they said, and I was the vice captain, and I think it was Gary Colwell said, why not, Charles? He says, because it's my money, I don't give a shit. He says, it's my money, I'm not giving them my money. And that was literally his words.
Wow. So
yeah, as you can imagine, it didn't go down too well when he got put on one of the coat pegs with his training gear on, and all. A few of the lads went for him. As soon as he said that, quite a few lads went for him. And and then we wanted him out of our dressing room after that. We went to the gaffer and said, look, we don't want him in our dressing room. And he went into another dressing room because we didn't want him we didn't want people like that. You can't have people like that in your dressing room. So yeah, that's why I wouldn't want to be in a lockdown with him, because I'd end up doing something I'd never normally do.
We're going to let you go in a second, Chris. But what's amazing to me to hear that is that I think you're treating the fans with more respect than they deserve. I'm really pleased and surprised to hear that would be such a central thing. But that's heartwarming. But I am quite surprised by it, if that makes sense.
Well, that's like I said. The dressing room. I've been lucky enough. A lot of fans don't realise what happens, what footballers do, what dressing rooms do. You know, what we give money to. You know, a lot of teams do it, and nobody will ever know what they've done. You know, because we don't do it for that, or certainly teams I've been in, we used to donate to all sorts of charities, all sorts of people. We used to do all sorts, and we always made sure we did. We always made sure that we all chipped in at Christmas and gave the kit man, like any staff at Wigan, we used to give them big bonuses at Christmas, but nobody ever found out about it. But there's a lot of, and even more so now, there's so many teams and players that do stuff, and yeah, they got bad names, and some of them rightly so, but there's so much more good stuff that goes on that fans will never ever know about, and probably shouldn't do, because it's players don't do it for that. Oh, we've give this to that. We're going to look great now. They don't do it for that. They do it because they want to make a difference for people and help people.
I mean, that's what.
Go on, Paul.
So I'm sort of from a not obviously, but sort of obviously because I saw you play. I've been a Cov fan during all 4 divisions. It's like season ticket for too many years before you even made your debut, and I find obviously football's changed a lot since we've been in the league, and it's just is a different game, different types of people, different types of personalities. But one thing I have noticed as we've dropped down the leagues is we seem to be closer to the players than we have been for a long time. Now, I think part of that is the fact that for the first time in a long time we've been successful. Part of that is the fact that the players are good. So people want to be sort of interacting with nice players, but also because we're so the difference between the players and the fans doesn't seem as big. But when you're in the Premier League, obviously you've got to keep that separation. You've got to keep something between you and the fans, because you might have 100,000 followers on Twitter or 2 million fans on Twitter. You can't have that personal reaction or personal interaction. So it's nice. It's just nice to hear that you're not that separated from us, but it's also you've got to keep that bubble around you, because you've got to keep your private life private. You've got to keep part of it away from everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, when I played, I didn't go on Twitter or Instagram, nothing like that, because, like you said, I didn't want anything to come from that. So I was, even though all the other lads were on it, I was like, well, I don't want to do that, because when I was at training, when I played, I gave it everything. But off the pitch, I wanted to be with my family. I wanted to be with my daughter, my wife. Walk the dog. I wanted to go and play golf with my mates and do normal stuff, because I think you have to try and separate it a little bit, because else if you're 24/7 like I was when I was younger. Once you get over 30, you start to realise that there is more important things than football off the pitch, but you've got to be happy off it to be happy on it, and vice versa. And yeah, my family's always been luckily, like I said, when I first moved up to Liverpool, things could have been very different. If I was on my own, I think, things might have been very different, but luckily I had a good girl with me, and yeah, we're still here, still together today with a cracking daughter. So yeah, very lucky.
That's in my. I really appreciate your time, Chris. It's been
my pleasure.
It's been brilliant listening to your stories, and obviously reviewing your career, and sort of, as I said, it's been a odd one. You didn't play that many times for Cov, and I think to some extent people forget quite how good you were, because normally with young players you see this sort of progression, this sort of naive player who comes through and then develops into a top quality player. You just came fully formed and then left to go on to bigger and better things.
Well, I know you're saying that, but trust me, I had to work hard. I had to work hard at a lot of stuff.
No, that's not what we're saying, believe me.
Oh, I know what you're saying.
Yeah. And
like I said before, I never thought I'd made it until I retired, and probably retired a couple of years too early through, not through footballing reasons, but I never thought I'd made it at all. And like I said, I've mentioned it many times, that I was lucky enough to work with the best professional I've ever worked with, and that's why.
Because this is a podcast rather than a different audio or visual format or whatever, it's worth mentioning at this point that we talked about your usurping Magnus Hedman, and Roland Nilsson was playing in the same Sweden team. But this is a team who at the time were like the best defence in all of Europe between them. Is that they were famed for clean sheet after clean sheet after clean sheet. And as a 20-year-old, you came in and he was a wonderful keeper, Magnus Hedman. Mm. And if we'd got more time, which I don't want to take any more of your time, I'd have asked you about your relationship with him. But you came in and you seamlessly took him out.
We used to share a room, me and Magnus. He was brilliant. He used to pay the room bill. He used to, anything that I wanted, he says, "Get it, I'll get it, not a problem." So, but in the end, I had to get a room with somebody else because he's snoring.
Well, I was going to say the other thing is that he'd be back in at 5 a.m, wouldn't he?
Oh, honestly, his snoring was just. And I was only a young lad, and I was thinking, I can't go and say, look, Magnus Hedman, I can't stay in the room because he's snoring. So I put up with it for ages and ages and ages. Like when we stayed in away games, and then I had to say to the staff, I said, listen, I can't put up with it anymore. He's keeping me awake all night. And he used to say to me, he said, if I snore, throw something at me. And I was thinking, I can't throw something at Magnus Hedman. Like, he was saying, literally, he said, pick something up and throw it at me. I was thinking, I can't do that. And so in the end, I had to move room. But he was great. I had a great relationship with him. I've seen him since. He never, even when I took his place, he never made things difficult for me. He just said, listen, if I can give you any advice, if you need any help, I'm here for you. He said, yes, I know that you're playing and, goalkeepers take each other's place and it can be difficult. He says, but he was never anything like that. He was brilliant with me, absolutely superb.
But the scale of what you did in terms of coming through as a young keeper and taking arguably, maybe not the best keeper in the world, but the keeper with the best defence in the world, his place in the team is unreal, isn't it?
I just didn't think about it though. You don't, like I said when I was younger. I didn't think about things like.
You never will. But the rest of the COV fans that are listening to this,
right,
and the rest of the football fans that are listening.
That's nice to know. But yeah, like I said, I just wanted to play, train. I wanted to be better than anyone I train with, and I think that's why I overtook him. I overtook him eventually, which was, you say, was hard. But I never thought it. I never thought, oh my God, I've ousted the Sweden #1. It was never like that. I was just focused on playing as well as I could.
But what was nice for me more than anything else is that after what you talked about there was a sort of general consensus that you were something of a sick note, which is bollocks. What was brilliant was that whether it was at Wigan or at Sheffield Wednesday, is that wherever you went after Liverpool, and even at Liverpool, in fact, is that you were appreciated to the full extent that you should have been appreciated. So you were winning Player of the Years. Is that it seems like every club that you've touched, you've been massively appreciated for. And that's the thing that when I look back over your career that I think I'm really, really pleased at. Because when we first saw you coming through, we just wanted you to be the best that you could be. And in the end, is that one way or another, that's what happened. And everyone loved you. And that's really, really massive, I imagine.
Like I said, I know it's important. I always appreciate the fans. I always never said no to signing anything, because it's important to have that relationship with every club you're at. And I just treated people and treated, my teammates, fans, and everyone at any club I've been at, whether they're making the tea or whatever. I just treated people the way that I want to be treated myself, and it's as simple as that. And luckily enough, I've managed to work at some brilliant clubs and work with some brilliant people as well, not just footballers, but people at clubs as well that people will never even hear of or never know that we're at clubs that make clubs tick. They're the ones without people like that, clubs just wouldn't run. But yeah, I've always tried to treat people the way I want to be treated myself.
Oh, God bless you. Top bloke. Paul, you all done questions-wise?
Yeah, I'm all done. Thank you. Thanks for your time.
No problem. Listen, chat. Anything else you need, just let us know.
Top bloke. Neil, anything you want to ask before we wrap up?
Just a thank you. We've already spoke about it earlier, but I'm always at great pains to kind of trying to respect the human behind the football a lot of the times. It's just to understand the decisions that you guys have to make all the time. So I've just really valued being able to listen to what you've had to say, especially some of the detail about your move and all that sort of stuff. It's just really appreciate your time. Thanks a lot.
That's one big thing, actually. I've always the one big regret, I never got a chance to say goodbye to the fans. And I didn't at Sheffield Wednesday either.
Yeah, we felt that. Yeah,
I never got a chance to say goodbye to the Cov fans, and I always thought I never went and played against them. After I left Cov, I never played against them. Funnily enough, back at Highfield Road or the Rico, which was really strange. So I never got a chance to. So if you can, I wish I could have got the chance to do that, to say goodbye to them.
Right. Well, I think that hopefully that will be something of a goodbye. What I would say to you, Chris, more than anything else, is you're an absolute gentleman, aren't you? I just think you're a superstar for us. You had a fantastic career, and we just appreciate so much your time coming on and joining us. Guys, thanks for listening. Chris, thanks for joining us. I guess it's time for us to say bye.